गुड इवनिंग देवी और सज्जनों। थेम्स स्पीक्स के आज के इस कार्यक्रम में आप सभी का स्वागत है। थेम्स स्पीक्स एक ऐसा कार्यक्रम और एक ऐसा प्रोग्राम जो इस समाज में थेम्स के किनारे जो भी पॉजिटिव स्टोरीज, दुनिया के जो बेहतरीन और अलग अलग हिस्सों से आए हुए कहानियाँ और किस्से हैं, उन सब को प्रेजेंट करने का एक जरिया है। जब मैं थेम्स स्पीक्स में आज की इस बात करता हूँ तो शायद तुरंत मेरी कहानी का जो हिस्सा है वो दुनिया के कई हिस्सों से अपने तार जोड़ता है। और कहानी का एक हिस्सा आज मेरी नज़र ठहर गई, वो है टाइम्स मैगजीन के पेज पर, और उसका टाइटल था इंडिया इन क्राइसिस। और मैंने देखा एक छोटी सी फोटो, काशी में बहुत सारी जो लाशें हैं वो जल रही थी। उन सारी जलती हुई लाशों के बाद जब मैंने वहाँ के न्यूज़पेपर और मैगजीन्स उठाकर देखे तो मुझे अलग अलग जगहों से अलग अलग हेडलाइंस मिले, एंड देन आई वाज सरप्राइज्ड। बीबीसी ने कहा कि व्हाई इंडियाज कोविड क्राइसिस मैटर्स टू द होल वर्ल्ड। गार्डियन लिखता है WHO ब्लेम्स परफेक्ट स्टॉर्म, और इट आल्सो सेज दिस इज बियॉन्ड हार्ट ब्रोक। हॉस्पिटल चोक्स। Times said that 5 lakh cases per day, that is the estimation of different media agencies. They also give one simple data. Last year in June, initially when COVID was surged in India, there were 11,000 cases per day, but after 60 days, that number reached to 35,000 new cases within 60 days. Recently, on 10th of Feb, there were 11,000 cases per day. In next 50 days, the cases rose from 11,000 to 22,000. So that was just a satisfactory number. But within next 10 days, the number rose around 90,000 cases per day. And that's why different media houses and different organizations are thinking that number will go 5 lakh cases per day. So it paints a very gloomy, very negative and a different picture. So I have seen a lot of people, they have stopped watching news, they have stopped scrolling on social media, and people are thinking about what will happen. So I started talking to different people. Then suddenly I came to know about one gentleman who did an amazing job in the wave one. He was posted in Rajasthan, and he was former health and Home Secretary of Rajasthan. Now he is Additional Secretary in Government of India. But apart from his official position, he himself is an ardent reader and an amazing speaker. Especially he writes amazing things. And maybe I can put in this way, he writes positive things. So before I can introduce him to you guys, I will just read what exactly he has written. Recently, कुछ लोग तुम्हें समझाएंगे, वो तुमको खौफ दिलाएंगे, जो है वो खो सकता है, इस राह में रहजन है इतने, कुछ और यहाँ हो सकता है, कुछ और तो अक्सर होता है, पर तुम जिस लम्हे में जिंदा हो, ये लम्हा तुमसे जिंदा है। ये वक्त नहीं फिर आएगा, तुम अपनी करनी कर गुजरो, जो होगा देखा जाएगा। The man who believes in Purushartha. I would like to introduce and I would like to welcome our today's guest, Shri Rohit Kumar Singh ji from Delhi. Rohit Kumar Singh ji, good evening and welcome in this UK and Europe's program about COVID situation in India. You were a hero for a lot of people in wave one. Especially you have given 2 different models from Bhilwara and Ramganj model in Jaipur, and you contained COVID. And I think a lot of people see you as an ardent reader as well as a very good speaker. So we really want to know what is the real current situation and how situation will change maybe in next 30 days or 45 days, which are crucial not only for India, but this is also crucial for the whole world, because WHO said this is not just for India, it's a global problem, and probably the whole world will suffer from this disease. So my first question will be, you have witnessed and you have controlled and probably you have managed the COVID wave 1. Maybe my first question will be based on, this is wave 2, you are still experiencing those things in society and in community. Did you see any new symptom, or do you see any new pattern in the wave 2 compared to wave 1?
So I think there is a lot of difference between what was happening in wave 1 and wave 2. Wave 1, although the number of cases were lesser, but people were more scared. They were more careful because it was a new disease. We didn't have the vaccine. We didn't have an established protocol of medicines. I was the health secretary in Rajasthan, and we were totally taken by surprise. And we were talking to experts. We didn't have established protocol, so there were a lot of challenges. So what we decided was that we should not let the infection spread. So we followed a model which was later called the Bhilwara model, and many other districts in India adopted it. We called it ruthless containment. We said we have to contain it wherever it is. We should not allow people to mix to regions where it is not spread. So, as government, we were fully aware that it is going to inconvenience people, but because it's for people's good and people's health, we very carefully crafted a strategy that people should not become adversaries, because this was a battle where we had to fight with people. So, when we were younger and we were district magistrates, we imposed curfews and other Section 144 for law and order purposes. So there, many a times people become adversarial. They take an adversarial position with the government. So this time we thought, I'm talking wave one, that we should not let this happen. And so while on the one hand we did ruthless containment in terms of, not letting people come out of their homes, we simultaneously ensured that the essential supplies like milk, vegetables, medicines, they have to be there. And police, etc., should not use brute force. They should be more of, telling people that
Humanitarian,
it's for the
humanitarian.
humanitarian. So that worked. Other thing that worked was we quickly surveyed many localities, very vulnerable localities, and we had a good data on who's vulnerable, and we could prioritize, because like everything else in society, even in our daily lives, even in our professions, we want to do 100 things, but we don't neither have the resources nor time to do 100. So you have to prioritize. So I think what we succeeded in Rajasthan was in prioritizing. So we did of course, the chief minister was the leader and he was driving it. So when we had close discussions, we said, "Sir, let's focus on saving lives, and we should not worry too much about numbers, because there's not a reflection on your governance or our governance." So he agreed, and we launched something called the Mission Lisa. Lisa stands for life saving. So we got hold of the health insurance record of people living in containment zones, because they were all available online. Rajasthan still has a almost universal health insurance scheme. So we very quickly got hold of people, identified them who had taken uh, help for comorbid conditions. And since we were short of resources, we focused on them. I don't have the numbers, but definitely we did save some lives there.
Yes, I
This
agree.
time the situation is different. This time we know the protocol, we have the vaccines, but given India's size, the numbers have risen exponentially, and like you very rightly said, within a short span of time.
Within
So I
10
think we
days,
were
within 10 days it rose from 22,000 to 90,000. I think
right.
that exponential growth, especially in a country which is huge and population number is very high, I think that's an alarming situation.
So we were caught a little off guard. You would have heard stories, but don't trust stories and the extent of it. Things are getting under control now. The supply of oxygen is getting streamlined, and of course, the public health system, is totally stretched. And I think what Prime Minister Modi did the best was the scheme called Ayushman Bharat. Before that, public health and private health system in India,
Were
unlike
different.
your NHS, I mean, we were neither like NHS nor like the US system, which is the insurance based thing. We were somewhere in the middle. And what Modi ji did was, by launching that universal health insurance scheme, especially for 80% of the people of the country, was letting people access the best secondary and tertiary care of private facilities through this insurance route. So there was a synergy developing between private sector and public sector. I think that stood in good stead now. Had that not happened, maybe things would have been worse. That's my personal assessment.
I heard a word which is called we caught off guard. I also understand nothing is predictable, especially in this uncertain time. Do you think that we planned after wave one, but we were not expecting that the severity of wave two will occur in this form?
I think you're right to some extent. Yeah, we thought. I think by the end of January, when the cases started coming down, we knew there's going to be a second wave, but we had not expected it to rise, like you said, exponentially in such a short period of time. So yes, but it can be true for any other country. It's not specific to India. I mean, it can happen anywhere. And we have heard stories about New York and Italy and many other countries, UK also, that how people were said that you stay at homes. There is no oxygen. I've heard stories about even the toilet paper not being available in some New York nursing homes. So any system can be caught off guard, and but the challenge becomes more complex and more intense in India because of the sheer numbers, and so that's why last 10-15 days have been bad, but believe me, I mean this next 10 days are going to be difficult, but after that things are going to be much better. And if we get an opportunity to talk again, maybe we'll talk in better times.
That's great. Up to January, I used to read newspapers and magazines and different sources of media. Everywhere I found one positive news that India is donating or India is helping or assisting through its own vaccine program. I think it has exported its own vaccine, maybe free, or as an assistance to different countries. Maybe number of countries they got benefited from that free vaccine. And India also has its own vaccination program for its own citizens also. And I think there were different stages with age groups, like everyone who was above 50, so they were supposed to go, they were supposed to have the dose 1 and then dose 2, and I think this is how India was working on. This is how I think different countries in the world they were working. So in this whole process, what we can see now means that there are different opinions. So up to January, the picture was just rosy and people thought this is a really good international diplomatic win, or it's building relationship between different countries. So if I'm thinking about vaccine, then there are different questions from different segments of the society or maybe community. The question may be, do you think that government should spend a lot of money on the vaccination development? Do you think that government should have given this vaccine to different countries as well? Or maybe the government should have or could have done something to organize this vaccination program in a different way, and it would have avoided or maybe slowed down this wildfire of corona wave 2. What do you think about this?
So I think in addition to the volumes of production, which is a different number, there is the whole issue of the rolling it out across the geography of India. So there are huge logistical challenges, and to maintain that temperature, we are getting into very intense summer. You need different systems. So I think we did a good job by exporting it to other countries on a simultaneous basis, because that is also required. India is emerging, as a powerful player in the world. So we have to play what is so-called the vaccine diplomacy.
Yes.
And contrary to some people's opinion, it was not at the cost of what is happening domestically. It was going on in parallel. I mean, I can give an example that even if you are not very well off, you still go to the temple and donate something. You still see a beggar and you donate something. So these things are not mutually exclusive. I mean, the very philosophy of India and the Hindu religion is, this Vasudhaiva Kutumbakam, that we should not only care for ourselves, we should care for everyone. So India was a front runner at that time in production of vaccine, and I think we did a pretty good job by helping the Bhutans and the Nepals and the Brazils and wherever we could, including the Caribbean, wherever we could ship our vaccines to. In our program, there is an issue of was an issue of vaccine hesitancy initially. These are new things and people are not sure it's going to work. But I think we have crossed that bridge now. And in fact, I wrote an article in the Times of India about a month back when things were not this bad, that when you give somebody the dose of vaccine, he's required to sit there for 30 minutes because you are checking for their adverse effects. So I wrote something that India should utilize those 30 minutes because more than half of your population is going to be captive with you for 30 minutes. So for disadvantaged sections of society, you can tell them about your health programs, other schemes. You can give them some goodies, which includes like the sanitary pads, the condoms, and the paracetamol or whatever. Because everybody is going to be with you for those 30 minutes, and he's there and he's doing nothing. So maybe you can use that opportunity. It is a huge opportunity,
I think
and
this is called
especially
time management, and
this
a
time. Yeah.
bright idea which is required in this stage, and utilization of the time of the whole nation, I can put in this way.
So I think we are doing an okay job. There's a issue of supporting the vaccine manufacturers, which I think the Honorable Prime Minister has taken a very good call recently. And if you have read today's news, both the vaccine manufacturers have also reduced the cost at which it will be offered to people on the private route. So I think things are settling down. We are a country, traditionally, historically, that we do start with a little chaos, but after a while things settle down, and in the end we emerge the winners. Even if you take the cricket matches, any series we start, we will lose the first game, whether it is Australia, England, or anywhere else, and then gradually we recover, and we ultimately win.
We
So I
will
think the
rose like a
philosophy of
phoenix from the ashes.
right. So I
Um,
personally believe in "Hum honge kamyab" philosophy, and I think we shall overcome.
I
Don't
still
worry about
remember
it.
the old quote from somewhere which I heard or maybe listened when I was in college when you were talking about this, that we always start from the chaos, but in the end we always endure, we always sustain, and we always end with a positive note. So the quote was यूनानो मिश्र रूमा सब मिट गया जहाँ से अब तक मगर है बाकी नामो निशा हमारा कुछ बात है कि हस्ती मिटती नहीं हमारी सदियों रहा है दुश्मन दौरे जमा हमारा. So
Right.
I just remember that quote when you mentioned that we always start from chaos, but in the end we achieve something which is called positive aspect. But when we discuss about this vaccination, and I understand that the production in terms of Indian production system for vaccine was huge, and it was able to supply not only to the India, it was able to supply to the rest of the world as well. And I have no qualms and questions about this particular issue, but recently I have noticed few governments, they have decided that they will do vaccination free for all of its citizens. Do you think free vaccination for all the citizens is a good idea, or it should be only restricted to the BPL, means those who are below poverty line?
Uh, it's a little tricky because it has politics is all about perception, and there are a lot of optics involved in any public policy decision. So I think it's up to the chief executive of the state to decide. For example, in case of Rajasthan, I was doing some back of the envelope calculation. It's about 3,000 crores. Now, of course, it has to be at the cost of something. So, if the state thinks that they can pull out 3,000 crores from elsewhere in the current year's budget and use it for free vaccine, the decision maker has to weigh whether it's a good move politically. Of course, people will benefit, but if it were to me, I would still charge from people who can afford, because that's how it should be. The principle of equity, and people who can afford should pay. It's going to save lives. This is an important thing. So, like the electricity bill, you pay, you use, and that's how you get quality
Pay as you
service.
go.
Right.
What I have noticed in last maybe 10 days, global diaspora, those who are based abroad, maybe in Europe, UK, America, Australia, they geared up, they started different type of donation schemes. So they can collect money, they can fund that money to supply oxygen or to supply maybe injections or vaccination and different things. So what I noticed that people were not donating millions of pounds. I have noted people were donating £5, £15, £20 and £30, which is a small amount in terms of British value. But people were donating. So this is also an option. So when we think about 3,000 crore rupees budget for one state, if they are supplying that vaccine free, I know a lot of people, a lot of means maybe more than 50% people are able to afford it. So maybe government could have saved, out of those 3,000 crore rupees, maybe government could have saved 15,000 or 20,000 crore rupees easily. And that's a huge amount which they can save, and they could have invested this amount for oxygen plants and few other issues. But I will definitely talk about oxygen later because our present conversation is focused on vaccination. So I agree with your concept that it should have been like a pay-as-you-go. If you can afford, please pay, and then you can go. If you are not able to afford, state is there to support. As you mentioned that there's a universal health schemes, and there's Ayushman Bharat schemes which are also supporting patients, and it has brought a new era in Indian medical history. I can put it in this way. People never felt, especially common men, never felt that they will be taken care by the government. But after introduction of these schemes, they felt that they can also avail, and they can also use those facilities or first-class medical facilities in India at the cost of government, and government will pay that bill. My next question is focused on one more aspect, and that is about, again, it will be a politics, but the question is, from wave one we have learned social distancing, we have learned maybe just putting the mask when you're in the public. We have also learned how to wash our hands. Even in Britain, Prime Minister, our finance minister and other ministers, they have shown us on TV how to wash our hands, and I think this is also a great drive for the sanitization. So all these questions are there. This is what politicians did in wave one, and this is what a common man or the mass has learned. What was the impact on wave two? We will discuss after a break, and we will also discuss how wave 2 could have been avoided, and we will also address other questions. Stay in tune with us on Sky 71 on MATV.
With WW, I can enjoy the food I want when I want. Why haven't you joined yet? Oh, because you're waiting for this commercial to end. I get it.
WW Weight Watchers Reimagined. Get started today.
My name is Sophia. I live in North London. I'm a costume designer. I love my job, and clothes are really important for me. I have to stay up to date with the latest trends, and I think my style reflects that. And my wardrobe? I'm always running out of room. That's where Vinted comes in. It helps me get some space back. So whenever I'm done with a style or a trend, I can declutter and sell everything that I don't wear anymore on the app. It's a free way of giving my clothes a second life instead of just keeping them in my wardrobe. I like choosing my clothes carefully and with love. I hope someone else can enjoy them just as much as I did. And that's why I sell them on Vinted. If I had to explain to someone how to use Vinted, I'd say it's really simple. You just snap, upload, set the price, start selling. Because sellers don't pay any fees, I keep all the money I make from it. And it's a bit of extra cash for my savings. Download the free Vinted app. If you don't wear it, sell it on Vinted.
Oh, that's a low price. Oh, that's a real price.
Oh, that is a low price.
What's a low price?
That's a low price.
I can get you a new one.
Amazon. Low prices anytime, anywhere.
I'm not confused, but he's about to be in a big way. That huge bargain he found online turned out to be a little underwhelming. I'm not confused. I'm confused.com. Get what you bargained for with confused.com rewards.
We do things a little differently here at the AA. Our cutting-edge technology means we can get you going again in around 30 minutes of arrival. And with our Tap and Track app, you can follow your AA mechanic all the way to your side. Plus, with unlimited call-outs, we'll be there when you need us. Switch to a different kind of breakdown service for just £6 a month. Call 0800 29 44 999. That's 0800 29 44 999.
How did the plastic surgery go, John? That'll do.
In Yorkshire, when we say that'll do, it means it'll more than do. Great value broadband, award-winning customer service for only £22.99 a month. That'll do. Offer ends 12th of May. Surge plus net fibre.
Join WWF's Amazing Planet and open up our wonderful world to your children. Every month, they'll escape to some of the most incredible places on Earth and learn about the wildest, wettest, scariest animals and habitats on our planet. Packed full of wild goodies, Amazing Planet will take children on an adventure of discovery they'll want to go on time and time again. A monthly booklet, an interactive map, collectible cards, an exclusive badge, and loads more will keep them coming back. They'll love this brilliant augmented reality app. It brings amazing animals up close to your children. They won't believe their eyes. All this fun, and you'll help WWF protect our world when you join. Fantastic. So search WWF Amazing Planet now. WWF Amazing Planet. Open up their world to something amazing.
At Glasses Direct, try the glasses you like at home for free. Get your glasses your way at glassesdirect.co.uk.
Good evening. Welcome back, everyone. We are here on MTV Sky 711. And we are talking, we are discussing, and we are getting information and a deeper knowledge from Rohit Kumar Singh ji, who was champion and hero in COVID wave 1 in particular big state of India, and that's called Rajasthan. So welcome back, Rohit Kumar Singh ji. And we were discussing about how politicians play a positive role. They are just role models of the community. They lead from the front. So I gave him an example that Prime Minister, Finance Minister and other ministers, they even discussed and they created the videos how to wash hands, how to put the mask and different things. This is how politicians and the leaders should lead from the front. But recently we have noticed 2-3 things. One thing is there were huge election rallies in different states. And I have noticed people were they were trying to follow their social distancing. They were doing their part. They were using their face mask. They were also doing their social distancing. But what exactly we have noticed that there were election rallies, and maybe government or the election commission, they have decided to start maybe an election campaign in certain areas. Do you think it has played also a negative role on this wildfire?
So, when you hold elections, the governments have a hands-off approach. It is decided by Election Commission of India, the schedule, what are the dates on which counting will happen. Everything about the election is decided by an independent autonomous body called Election Commission of India. And I think like everyone else, they made their assessment at that point in time when things were getting better and the numbers were going down. And they also had the experience of Bihar elections, which I think happened in October, and apparently there was no great fallout of that. So, this disease is new, and even for epidemiologists, this is a new thing. I daily check various models across the world, including one that I trust most from University of Michigan at Ann Arbor by Brahma Mukherjee. And you know, uh, so everybody builds on empirical data. What is empirical data? That's the evidence that you have. So I think Election Commission had that evidence, which probably did not anticipate such an exponential rise. So I think it was a miscalculation, and probably if they were wiser, but how would they be wiser unless they have good data? So yes, but why blame only the elections? I mean, Indians love big fat weddings. So there was a wedding season. We had a lot of mixing and weddings. We got a little careless when we were going to offices and markets, and I would see people, not wearing masks, despite having been affected. So I think everybody let their guard lower a little, and I think all of that contributed to this wave, including maybe things like a new variant which spreads faster. And there's a lot of research going on as to if you are between the two doses of vaccine, are you more vulnerable? Do you catch it faster? Because we have had cases where people who have taken one dose are suddenly testing to be positive. So there are many factors. But of course, the best, as I said, when we did Bhilwara was containment. So, but that's life is, like they said, life and livelihood is also important. So people have to go back to their jobs. 50% plus of India's economy is informal. People have to go out for work every day. They have to seek work, construction activity, vegetable selling. There are informal markets.
Unorganized sector. If
So,
people will not die from COVID, they would have definitely died because of the hunger.
So it's a very tricky thing. So we cannot blame anything, but the challenge should be that okay, now it has happened, so let's control it, and let's try and manage it in the best possible way. That's how I would like to look at it.
Still, I agree with you, because the model which was present in front of the independent body of election commissioner, and it suggested that things will not go out of hand. But still we can see certain things that because of this pandemic, maybe political parties could have come up with a new idea how to reach out to the voters and campaign even if they are not physically present. Like I can give example. Recently, last year we had an election in US, and Mr. Biden, he did a lot of rallies and he did a lot of stuff and he did campaign, but physically he was not present there. So I think it maybe this COVID wave 1 could have teach us a lot of things, like work from home is an absolute and a new concept for various jobs. A lot of people, they thought that they cannot work from home because of the nature of their jobs, but I can see the whole nation survived. Maybe 50-60% jobs people were able to do from their home. So it's a new phenomena. In the same way, maybe political parties and managers, election managers, or maybe communities, they could have come with new ideas that how can we reach to the voters and we can tell them about our own agenda. I think that can be, that was something which was missing, and maybe we have lost that opportunity, or hopefully in future, in a new India, this can be a lesson learned, that how can we create a new phenomena where politicians can reach directly to their voters without meeting them, without organizing them in one particular ground in the lakhs and lakhs of numbers.
Right.
My next
You're
question,
absolutely right.
my next question is, I'm raising those questions. I can just see these questions are just floating in international media. So sometimes these questions are floating because of their hidden agenda, because of their because of their nature, because they have to serve their different interests. But sometimes few questions are also genuine. So I have also come across one question that the various congregations, as you mentioned, like wedding season, has played an important role. We cannot blame one individual or one family for that wedding season. So no one can stand and say, oh, because of the wedding seasons, this has happened. But yes, it was an important factor. But so similarly, I found one factor that people were just questioning about the organization of Kumbh in Haridwar. So I have points from both the sides. Few people, they said that it was properly checked and they were checking COVID reports, and anyone who was there, they didn't allow a bigger congregation on one place. But different people, they said it could have been avoided or it could have been organized in a different way. So what do you think about that?
So I think I would go to the same logic that I gave for the Election Commission of India. When they decided to hold the Kumbh, and it's a very religious thing, and it's every 12 years, so there's a lot of faith associated with it. So maybe they underestimated the rise that it would cause. In hindsight, yes, we could have managed it better. And for example, if you heard today's news, the Char Dham Yatra has been cancelled by government of Uttarakhand. But taking that decision today and taking a decision 45 days back, when the perspective is different, I mean, you could run into a miscalculation. But in hindsight, yes, maybe we could have done a better job with lesser people at the Kumbh.
Yeah. I remember in the month of January, Dr. Harshvardhan, who is Health Minister of India, he just said one phrase that we are in the end game of COVID in India. And he was hoping that the COVID will end in India. That was his calculation based on the present data and evidences which he has collected from various states. I think that was in January, in January. But then suddenly there was a rise in the numbers of the people. You were Health Secretary of Rajasthan, and you have experience even in different states in India as well, and you are working in Delhi now, and you're just taking care of the whole India for different projects. If I will ask you one question, that what do you think, in especially, yes, we have done a lot of improvements in last 10-20 years in terms of medical facilities, but what do you think, what are the top three priorities in in India about medical facilities?
So if you, when I was Health Secretary, I realized that in public health, there are three distinct verticals. One is the infrastructure, which is like the physical things, the hospitals, the buildings, the equipment, the oxygen supply line, fire extinguishers. So that is one vertical. The second is human resources, the doctors, the nurses, the paramedics, the ambulance drivers, the janitors, and everybody else. And third is, how do you synergize the two to provide quality of, a great quality of health services? I think India has improved tremendously on the first one over last 1 year, because many states and central government realized that this challenge could be a big opportunity. A lot of investment will have been made in health infrastructure, although much more is required. But I think we are falling a little short on the second one, which is the human resources, in terms of number of doctors, in terms of number of nurses in public health system. I think the shortage is to the extent of 50%. And I consider Dr. Devi Shetty as my guru in health. He's the CEO of Narayan Hridayalayah. And you should see a video that's gone viral for last 2-3 days. I can send it across to you. And he has said that when a patient is managed in the ICU or is in oxygen, it's not the doctor who is critical, it is the nursing staff who is critical. And many lives are saved by good, qualified, dependable nursing people. So if you are not going to fill up the shortage of nurses quickly, you could have more problems in wave 3. So he has said that we should make efforts. There are a lot of nursing schools. We should reduce the barriers of all these accreditation and exams. And that's the same thing he said about doctors, that take the NEET exam quickly, people who qualify, bring them into public health system. Because unless you have trained and adequate human resources, I mean, to run a ventilator, you need an expert. Just by importing ventilators from UK or getting it donated is not going to help. You need people to run that system. So I think India should focus on the human resource aspect of public health very quickly and very rapidly. And unless we build capacities, unless we get people, we would be probably looking for more trouble later.
On the same note, probably I may be factually I may be wrong, but I will be very close to this statement. I think India is the biggest exporter of doctors and nurses to the world. At the same time, we are in shortage of 50%, as you said. But at the same time, we are also the biggest exporter of nurses and doctors to the world. So I think that can be also a situation where government can think and feel. And I think I have also noticed number of nursing colleges and medical colleges has increased a lot in last 15 years. I think that is also an exponential growth of to create new medical practitioners in India. Now, my next question will be based on that India's image after wave 2. What do you think, how India will counter this image which is being painted as a negative image in the world, and what type of steps do you think that India should take so that the real picture or the positive picture should emerge in international community?
So I think India has a very committed and a very strong political leadership as of now. I mean, I have done 32 years in the IAS, and I have never seen such a strong, positive, committed leadership. And I think some tough decisions will have to be taken, which only this leadership is capable of taking. And instead of focusing on populist measures, we should be focusing on hard, tough decisions which lead to reforms, which lead to more investment in health sector, more investment in many other social sectors, and tell the world that of course we are in trouble, but how we manage to come out of it by stronger decision. And I think the current leadership, Mr. Modi and his team, is fully conscious of that. I see them, meeting every day in crisis groups, talking to Mr. Biden or your Prime Minister or Mr. Putin, and taking international help, trying to leverage resources from wherever possible, both in terms of technology, science, money, and trying to channelize into the right way in India. So I think all the dots are there. Sometimes it happens. I mean, I've studied in the US, and I realized that once, you would also remember when Mrs. Hillary Clinton was contesting elections, there was a huge issue on counting of ballots.
Yeah.
So any country can get into a situation where to an outsider it appears to be, making a faux pas or making a mess. But I think only the internal dynamics of the country know that what is actually happening. And after making mistakes, you become stronger, you become wiser. So, unless you have made mistakes, you will never grow. So, yes, we had, of course, there was something circumstantial which was beyond our control, but we did some mistakes. But that does not mean that we are out. We are down, but not out, and we will emerge stronger, better. And just wait for 3 months, and the world will see a different picture about India.
In every session which I organize, no matter what is the topic or who is the guest, I always try to focus on one aspect because that aspect is an important part. And that aspect is I always ask the person about the favorite book or the favorite book of that person or the favorite writer of that person, and maybe one or two examples of those things. And there is a reason behind it, because the new generation, those who watch this program, probably they learn a lot. But I didn't inform you in advance because you are an ardent reader. You are also a very good speaker, and you write a lot of things in different newspapers and magazines. I have seen your articles which you publish regularly in different daily newspapers. So what it shows to me, that yes, you by profession you are a bureaucrat, but by heart you are an academician. So can you please tell me about one or two, or maybe even three? You can suggest your favorite books, so people and viewers, those who are watching this program, they will be benefited, and definitely they will buy that book and try to read about it.
So one of my, I have a lot of favorites, but in the current context, I think the book that should be read by people who have any connection to India is called The Soft Power by Joseph Nye. Nye is spelled as Nye. When I was studying at Harvard, he was our dean at the Kennedy School, and he is the one who has written this concept of soft power. So he has said that countries can be powerful either through military or weapons or oil or whatever, but countries can also be powerful using soft power. For example, he said that America has tremendous soft power because of Hollywood, because of music. So everywhere in the world, people like Hollywood movies, and they know who the real stars are. And so I think India also has tremendous potential in soft power, whether it is yoga, whether it is our food, which is also the national food in UK. The curry is probably the national food of UK now. So we should very carefully, the policymakers and we in the government should leverage our soft power if India has to emerge, one of the leading powers in the world. So that book very nicely explains as to what is soft power and how that should be exploited.
That's one book. Before you talk about second book, I just remember when you said soft power, then I remember the song from the Manoj Kumar, "Tumne jeete hain desh to kya humne to dilon ko jeeta hai."
Right.
Yeah. So what was the second book?
Second book is very, everybody would have read it, a version of this. Second book is Bhagavad Gita. There is no book like Bhagavad Gita, and the paradigm there that karmanye vadikaraste ma phaleshu kadachana. Please keep doing your work, and you will automatically get results. Don't work directly for results. Keep making efforts. Keep doing. People will laugh at you. People will discourage you, but keep doing your work, and you will achieve what you want to achieve.
Which version of Bhagavad Gita you liked most? I'm sorry to ask.
I have many versions in my library, which is in the next room. There are translations, there are interpretations, but now there are newer generation interpretations. So even for the Hanuman Chalisa, there are new interpretations, and people are writing in a new perspective. So whatever you could lay your hands on, because these are things which are so precious. We must read. If you have
when
any
you read, everyone will have their own different meaning, and whenever you will read, you will find a different meaning according to your own situation, your position, and your mental state. I think this is how. So I think these are the two books. I will be delighted.
And third. I will also give you a third book, which is a fiction. Which is a small, thin book, but I place it very high because this is the only book that I cried while reading it. I do cry while watching movies, but I rarely cry while reading a book. And this is one book where I really cried. So this is by an Afghanistan author called Khalid Hosseini, and the book is called The Kite Runner. It's very famous. It's been made into the movies. It's about a little child of the servants of a rich family in Afghanistan, and how that child was a kite runner for the rich children, and how by turn of fate, he moves to the US and what happens. So it's an amazing book, and it will definitely make you cry. Please do read it.
I will definitely read. Even I think I share the same emotion with you when I watch movies. I also cry. And it shows, I think, there's a human being inside us. It shows maybe there's a part of our soul is pure. It also shows that still, maybe there's a part which is still unpolluted at the moment. So I take this as a positive note. And my next question again, I will come back to again one or two things. First thing is, what is your message to the global diaspora? What exactly they should do in this stage, and how can they stand with their own family, their friends, their roots, their village, their town, and their state and country?
So I think anybody who's concerned and who loves India must empathize with the situation and try and contribute. Rightly said, half of the disease is here in the mind. And just to tell, because people are in lockdown, like you said, working from home, so there's a lot of mental health issues involved. So just to call up your relatives and ask them as to how they're doing, and whether they had a good night's sleep, or just cracking a joke with them, making them feel lighter and making them feel a little away from all the depressing news which our media is showing and the world media is showing. Bring positivity into the ecosystem of people that you engage with in India. So I think that's a great contribution you can do. The oxygen and the ventilators, I don't think you should worry too much. We'll be able to handle it. But please promote positivity in your families, in your society, positivity about India outside. I think that is the greatest service you could do to your motherland.
Someone tweeted recently, and what did he tweet? He said, दुख सदैव पीछे की तरफ देखता है, चिंता सदैव इधर उधर देखती है, लेकिन विश्वास हमेशा आगे की ओर देखता है. So we have a faith. We have reposed our faith in the system. We have reposed our faith in the ancient system of Indian civilization. We are also having a strong faith in our own strengths. And I hope we will come out of this with a very positive note. We will learn things which will be remarkable for the future, and it will set up new things in Indian mechanism, and hopefully we all will end up with a positive note. It was really nice talking to you, and we will be in touch with you. Thank you very much, Rohit Kumar Singh ji, and thanks
if you
to
permit,
each.
Can I use a last sentence?
Please.
When there was wave 1 in Rajasthan, we would have one meeting every day with the Chief Minister. So I would make a presentation, and my last slide would always say, "Hum honge kamyab." So from my side, I want to end this interview with "Hum honge kamyab."
Hum honge kamyab. So this is the message for the global diaspora. We will be in touch with you. Thank you very much. Enjoy the program, and we will see you next week.